Hey guys, welcome to ANS Solver. Today we'll be doing the concept of partial fractions, which is the type 1 form, okay, which is a subtopic in the chapter of further algebra. Okay, so basically in this concept of partial fraction, there are actually 3 or 4 forms which you need to know. We have given, every form an individual video so that you're clear with the form. Okay, but the most important thing is that you need to remember these forms. Okay, only then you can implement it. Correct? So now this is the type 1 form. So if you notice here, notice the denominator. All these forms, the main thing you need to notice is the denominator. Okay, that's the most important thing. The numerator doesn't matter. You only need basically the denominator. Okay, so now as you can see, I have an x plus 1 into x minus 1. Correct, it's in that form. That means I can write this as, okay, please pay attention, this can be written as a divided by x plus 1 plus I can write this as b divided by x minus 1. This is basically the partial fraction form. Okay, now the next step is basically you need to cross multiply, or a better term is basically take the LCM. Okay, in this side you basically need to take the LCM and you need to only write the numerator part. So how do I take the LCM? This is very important to understand. I have a x plus 1 here. I have an x plus 1 here also. But what is missing here? An x minus 1. Correct? That means that will be multiplied to the numerator. So I can write this as a into x minus 1, as that's what missing here. In the same way, I have an x minus 1 here. Correct? So as you can see, I have an x minus 1 here also. But what's basically missing here? The x plus 1, correct? So that they can be equal. Correct? So I need to multiply this. That means that will be multiplied to the numerator. So I'll get plus b into, okay, I need to write x plus 1. And you basically ignore both the side denominator because they cancel out. Correct? Now what you need to do is you need to calculate your a and b. Now let's say if I want to find a first. Okay, if I want to find a, how do I find a? I know for a I need the part here, correct, to be 0, this full thing here to be 0. That means if I get this full thing here as 0, it will get multiplied to b and give me 0. Correct? That means I equate x plus 1 to 0. That gives me my x as minus 1. Now I substitute minus 1 in the place of x. So I get 2 equals to a into minus 1 plus here I get b into minus 1 plus 1. So here I basically get 2 equals to a into minus 2 plus I get a 0 here because minus 1 plus 1 is 0 and 0 into b, correct, is 0. That was our motive, correct, in the first place, so that I only get one variable which is which is a. Now I can simply calculate for a, so a will be equal to 2 over minus 2, which gives me my a as negative 1. Correct? So this is the value for a. In the same way, I need to find b. I know now for b, I need this full part to be 0. That means first I need x minus 1 to be equal to 0. So I write this as x minus 1 equals to 0. So I get my x as positive 1. Correct? This is what I basically get. So now I substitute this. So I get 2 equals to a into 1 minus 1 plus b into 1 plus 1. So I get 2 equals to 0. Correct? That means this full thing is now 0, which we wanted, plus 2b. b is the only variable, correct? That also we needed. So I get 2 equals to 2b, which gives me my b as 2 over 2. So I simply get my b as 1. Correct? So now you have the values of a and b. So now you can express this in the partial form, okay, or the partial fraction as, normally that's the f of x which is given to you. Sorry, yeah. So you can write this as f of x which is equal to your, you just need to write it in this form, but you just need to substitute a and b. So you write this as minus 1 over, okay, x plus 1, correct, plus, okay, plus b which is basically 1 divided by x minus 1, correct. So this is basically the form, correct, which you have, and you simply substitute a and b, correct. Got it? Understood? This is basically the only concept which you need to know. First, identify the denominator. It will look something like, two brackets multiplied to each other, correct. And then you can split it as something like this. Then you take the LCM and cancel the denominator. Then for finding a, you see that I want this full part to be 0, so you equate this part to 0, correct. Get the value of x, substitute. You do the same thing for b. Once you get the values for a and b, you simply substitute, correct, in the partial fraction form which you established, correct, and write your answer. Now what we'll do is we'll do another example of the same type. So first, if they have asked you to express this in the partial fraction form, the questions in this chapter are very direct. They directly ask you just to convert it into the partial fraction form. So here you first notice, okay, basically the form, okay, looking at the denominator, 1 plus x into 2 minus x. So that's the type 1 form. So I can write this as a over 1 plus x plus, I can write this as b over 2 minus x, correct. Now I can write this as 4 plus x, okay, equals to, you take the LCM. Now how do you take the LCM? You have a 1 plus x, correct. I simply have a 1 plus x here, correct. Here, if you see, here also I have 1 plus x. So what's missing here? A 2 minus x. So I multiplied that to the numerator. So I write this as a into 2 minus x plus, here I write this as b into, here I have a 2 minus x, here also I have a 2 minus x, so the missing part is 1 plus x. So that's what I simply multiply, correct. Simple LCM. Now, and obviously I cancel the denominators and I ignore them. Now I calculate, I find my a first, okay, which is important. So I know for calculating a, okay, I need the part here to be equal to 0. That means I need 1 plus x, okay, sorry, I need 1 plus x to be equal to 0. So this basically gives my x equals to minus 1, correct. This is one thing which you need to know. Now I basically substitute the value of x here, so I get 4 minus 1 which is equal to a into 2 minus minus 1 plus b into 1 minus 1. So I get 3 equals to a into 3 plus 0. So I get 3 equals to 3a, correct. So I get my a basically as 3 over 3 and I get my a as 1, correct. This is what I basically get. Agreed? Now what I can simply do is I can find my b in the same way. But now for b, I need the part here to be equal to 0. So I need 2 minus x to be equal to 0, correct, which gives me my x equals to 2. Now I can write this as 4 plus 2 which is equal to a into 2 minus 2 plus b into 1 plus 2. So I get this basically as 6 equals to 0 plus b into 3. So I get my b basically as 6 over 3, which gives me my b as 2. Now I basically write this in the final form, which is basically this, and I substitute a and b. So I can write this as 1 over 1 plus x, correct? Sorry. Yeah. Plus 2, 1 second. Yeah. I get 2 over, here I have 2 minus x. So I simply write 2 minus x. So this is basically converting it into the partial fraction form. Okay, the most important thing is the denominator, which you need to know. When we do type 2, type 3, okay, there also you'll have denominators, okay, separate denominators. So you need to, you need to be able to distinguish, okay, because then the formula is quite a little different, okay. So yeah, this was basically the full process of the type 1 denominator partial fraction. Okay, so please view the next video. Thank you very much for watching.